And welcome back to the Popcorn Conspiracy on centralcoastradio.com. Now, the German Film Festival is opening up right around Australia, from places like Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Byron Bay, you name it. This year, the German Film Festival will be there. And we're going to take a look right now at one of the films that is screening at this year's German Film Festival. And that film is called Sisi and I. Now, this actually tells the story of Empress Sisi. Now, that was the nickname given to the Empress of Austria and Hungary. In this film, she is played by Suzanne Wolf, and this story is told through the eyes of her faithful maidservant Irma, played by Sandra Huller, who in real life was her maidservant until the day that she died. Now, the film is directed by Frauke Finstenwalder, and a lot of people in Germany were very, very excited about this film coming out because Finstenwalder hadn't made a movie for, I think it was about 8 or 9 years leading into the release of this film. So they were very, very surprised that she was making another film, but wanted to see exactly what she was going to do with this film. Now, the interesting thing I found about Sisi and I is that this is the second film that we've actually seen about Empress Sisi in the last 12 months. There, of course, was also a film called Corsage that came out, I think, earlier this year, and that also looked at her story. But the thing that I found most interesting about this film was that this film left out a lot of the details that we saw in Corsage. Sisi lived a very, very sad life, which would possibly explain the alleged mental illness that she suffered from in her later years. She lost 2 children. She was in a loveless marriage, and a lot of that isn't explored in this film, although it was explored in Corsage. So I found this film to kind of lack in the story a little bit after knowing some of the things that were historically correct about her. The interesting thing too is I have to be careful using the word historically correct because not a lot was actually known about Empress Sisi. She's one of those people that was so reclusive and kept her private life to herself so much that there wasn't a lot actually documented about what she was like as a person and what actually went on in her life. I remember reading the director's notes on Corsage, and they were talking about the fact that when people put together a story about Empress Sisi, they often have to just use the key points of her life and then kind of do a join the dots kind of thing in putting it together. But I'm kind of torn in whether or not Sisi and I is a better film than Corsage, because there were some things about Corsage that I found slightly annoying in the sense that it really, really enhanced the things that she supposedly did and the things that were wrong with her. And I couldn't help but wonder, because she was such a private person, if it was in fact a character assassination on her. Whereas with Sisi and I think it holds back those kinds of things more and kind of does admit that, yes, she was a strange person, and the kind of relationship that she had with Irma was a little bit strange as well. But I didn't feel that this film was as much as a character assassination as I thought Corsage was. But Lee also saw Sisi and I. What did you think of Sisi and I?
Look, I think obviously it is historical, as you say, and some of it dramatized, given we don't know her full history, but some of the things that we do supposedly know about her wasn't in this script.
Yeah.
I think that's a little disappointing, because I think they were the hard-hitting moments of her life that showed us how she became who she is. So apparently in real life she lost one of her children.
2. Yeah.
And then later on, an adult child as well. Now, these are the things that would make you melancholy, would make you depressed. It is a very depressing type of film, I feel. It's not an inspiring film, as in you're not inspired by the characters so much. Although I have to say, Countess Irma, the character, is quite fascinating in how she becomes the lady in waiting and what she's willing to do to take up that role. But there was a lot, even so there's some gym equipment. You find out very quickly that to be a lady in waiting, you have to be fit. You can't be overweight. You will get weighed all the time. You have to be able to use equipment, such almost circus equipment. But it's not really explained that the Empress actually was previously, in her younger years, attached to the circus. Is that right, Dave? You read that?
Yeah, so historically she apparently was born into a circus. So
that wasn't really made clear. So you didn't actually see the Empress ever use the equipment that was there on site. However, it was a very big feature of when going for the role of lady in waiting, you had to be able to almost prove that you were almost athletic or strong enough and fit enough and not fat.
Yeah.
Very clearly it says that. So I just think it would have been good to maybe see some of the younger years, or to see how she became it would have been a better storyline for us to see the character before and who she became because of her difficult and challenging life. It's quite a long movie. Although I have to say I did enjoy probably the last half more than the first half. The first half just seemed a little drawn out to me. And it took me a while to get into it or to really understand what was going on. But yeah, I got into it more so at the end than at the start, and started to enjoy it right at the end more so.
Yeah, I found one of the weaknesses of this film was that there was a lot of stuff in there that was never explained. This film looks really, really good. I thought that the cinematography by Thomas W. Kynast looked absolutely brilliant. There was elements in there of what you would expect from some of the Shakespearean films that we've seen over the years, where it's the stark contrast of the darker kind of European winter to the bright sunshine of when they're in Greece. But that to me doesn't overshadow the fact that there is so much in this film that goes unexplained. Like, one of the things that was annoying me at the start of this film was she kept on talking about the fact that she wanted this palace in Greece to be with females only, but there was a male security guard there the entire time. So there were people talking about that, saying, oh, she lives in this female-only Greek castle that her husband built for her, but there was a male there the entire time, and there was male servants there, and it was like, it goes against what people are saying, but that wasn't ever properly explored. I guess one of the reasons why perhaps some of the things that were looked at in Corsage aren't explored in this film is because this is told from Irma's point of view. So perhaps she didn't know about some of the things that the other film looked at. But I thought Corsage did a better job of showing her mental state. In that film, we saw her addiction to drugs, which is touched on in this film, but it doesn't go as deep. The other thing I'm not sure worked in this film was the director's choice to use modern day music over the top of these scenes that are set in the 1800s, because we saw that, of course, with the film Marie Antoinette with Kirsten Dunst, but that director's style matched that. Whereas there was nothing kind of in this film that matched a lot of the punk music that we were listening to. If the director had decided to shoot this as a 19th century period piece, but with flashy edits and stuff like that, then perhaps that music would have worked. But in this, it just felt like scenes that were out of Sense and Sensibility were suddenly having punk music played over the top of it. So it kind of jarred a little bit as well. I do think, and I don't know if you agree, but I thought the performances of the two leads were really good. Sandra Hüller was really good as Irma, and I really thought that Suzanne Wolf, if you've watched a lot of German films, you will have seen a lot of Suzanne Wolf over the years. I thought she was really good as Sisi as well.
No, I completely agree. I thought they were strong performances. And yeah, I really respected their performance. And again, the cinematography, as you mentioned, was something that stood out to me, especially the kind of ocean scenes.
Yeah.
They really were beautiful. And yeah, as I said, the last half of the movie I got into a fair bit and really enjoyed how the story started to come out more then. But yes, I think, it's just some of the storyline I felt was missing, yet it was super long movie.
Yeah. Suzanne Wolf is an amazing German actress. She's done so many German films over the years and so many German TV shows, and it looked like way back in 2011 that she was going to do the crossover into American cinema because she had a pretty major role in The Three Musketeers, the film that they made. But then she went back to just doing German cinema again. So, if you've never had the pleasure of watching Suzanne Wolf's performances, she is one of the finest actresses in the world. But, sadly, we haven't seen her very much on the international stage, just in German cinema. But I guess drawing the review to a close, what are you going to give this one out of 5 and why?
I'm going to give it 2.5 out of 5. I think I've explained everything already of what I thought was missing, but there is still a lot to the movie that's really good in terms of, as we say, the acting and the cinematography. But yeah, just in terms of that storyline, I just felt there was some bits missing that were really important. And for me, it just seemed a little too long.
Yeah, and I'm going to give this one 3 out of 5. Now, if you want to go along and see Sisi and I, it is playing as part of the German Film Festival, which is at various Palace cinemas around Australia. I've got the list right here in front of me. So if you're in Sydney, you'll be able to go to Palace Norton Street. If you're in Canberra, you'll be able to go to Paris Electric Cinema. In Melbourne, it's at the Como and the Westgarth. In Adelaide, it's at Palace Nova East End. In Brisbane, it's at Palace Barracks. In Perth, it's at the Palace Rain Square. And in Byron Bay, it's at Palace Byron Bay. So Lee's giving this one 2.5 and I'm giving it 3. So go and check out Sisi and I at the German Film Festival. You're listening to The Popcorn Conspiracy on centralcoastradio.com.